Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of High Energy Girl. And today's awesome guest is Dr. Alison Kay. Dr. Alison has over 25 years of experience as a mind, body, energy healer, founding the Vibrational UPgrade System and working in yoga, meditation, qigong, energy medicine, mind, body, fitness, longevity, and holistic health with a specialization in the chakra system. We had a great conversation about energy work and raising your vibration, so I cannot wait for you to meet her. So let's go and say hello to Dr. Alison. Hey everyone, welcome to High Energy Girl, a podcast helping women to age stronger because it is never too late to get fit, be strong, and feel sexy. I'm your host, Tracy Gluhite, health coach and personal trainer and founder of highenergygirl.com. Each week, we will either have a guest interview, which will provide you encouragement or an actionable tip to help you age stronger, or I will do a solo episode. Please also join our awesome Facebook group called High Energy Girls, and I'm looking forward to see you on the inside of that group and hope you enjoy today's show. Create Whole Body Wellness, a powerful new advancement in energy medicine. Increase your energy, empower your life. I am super excited to announce that I am now a bioenergetics practitioner. And many people are like, well, what is bioenergetics? So imagine that our body is controlled by our energy field, and these fields get distortions and blockages, which create physical and emotional symptoms. So how do we get energy blockages? From stress, toxins, EMFs, emotional traumas, physical scars, and physical traumas. All you need to do is decode the human body field to get to the root cause and restore your energy for life. For more information, head on over to the blog at highenergygirl.com/bioenergetics with an X. That's BIOENERGETIX, and heal your energy for life. Hey, Dr. Alison, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Hi, Tracy. I'm excited to see where we go.
Oh, me too. Absolutely. So for the listeners that don't know you yet, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, so the parts that I think people tend to get interested in is that I had a book leap off a shelf for me when I was a political organizer living in San Francisco and having a lot of success. Post-undergraduate, had moved there to go for my master's initially, and synchronicity came in and gave me this political career. And because I had so much success, they put me in really intense races, and I needed to learn how to de-stress. And so I was walking through a bookstore downtown one day, and a book about meditation literally fell off the shelf. I could have stepped on it, but I'm not that kind of a person, so I picked it up and took it as a sign it was. And I was such a natural in it. I actually had the understanding, not the hubris, to begin teaching it within a year and a half. And so flash forward now, approximately a decade, I had already traveled halfway around the world, living in different places as an expat for extended amounts of time, and came back to the States, got my master's ultimately in politics, public administration, and focusing on policy that will protect the environment, which is what I had been doing within my political career. And when I got out, I looked at where is there more change possible, outside the system or working within the system. So I was looking at both nonprofits as well as governmental, like local EPAs. And I found that, you know, that feeling when walls are there's not doors opening. Mm-hmm. And I read that for what it was. And what my assessment was, okay, hold on a second here. It seems like it's just not hit critical mass yet. The fossil fuel industry is this is the mid 90s. The fossil fuel industry is just still so embedded into the market, and it's not ready to change. And so if this consciousness is going to get raised, it seems like if I were to go back and rely on my bachelor's and go into the classroom and teach English literature, I can, and then do the meditation, teaching, and energy medicine on the side, I can affect more people, one consciousness at a time. So I approach it from that 100th monkey theory. You know, it's an actuality. People are throwing it around nowadays where they don't even know that it's an actual thing, a phenomena that happened on I believe it's the Southeast Pacific, an island, you know, where there are 100 monkeys and they had found a new way to eat on peeling the banana. And so once enough of them, they say, I believe it was 100, on another island where there was no contact, those monkeys too started to know how to peel a banana. So there's some transference that happens in the collective unconscious. And so that's what I'm talking about when I say the 100th monkey theory. So now flash forward 2.5 years, I'm in the public school system in Florida and inner city school, running energy medicine and holistic health and wellness sessions on the side. And a Saturday morning comes up and I'm looking at my checkbook and not digging what's happening. You know, I had at that point a master's, and I was like looking at the prospect of decades ahead of me in this seeming cage. Where was the sense of adventure? Where was the sense of fun? Where was the sense of lightness and abundance? And all I was looking for was basic housing, basic car, yes, organic produce, yes, a massage a week, because I consider that preventative health 101. It's kind of like a duh. And so I couldn't easily afford that. And that combined with one of the earlier clients I had, she was having a great session and already having great results, and I was really stoked. And so I said to the universe with my hands over her solar plexus and chakra, so upper belly, lower belly, I was like, all right, this is cool. How can I get even more robust results for my clients? So these two things happened right around the same month. And so I asked my guidance, the universe, what else is possible? And so somebody brought in the concept of the international school system. So I learned about it, found out what I had to do to get into it, flew to the place, did a bunch of interviews with directors flying in from around the world of different international schools, went through a bunch of interviews each day in their hotel rooms where the convention was, ended up with job offers like all over the globe. And it was interesting because like in the morning I could have been living in Colombia, Lebanon, somewhere more south in the Middle East, Southern Europe, Asia, like just mind-blowing. And so I chose to go to Taiwan because what I knew at that time from the training I had already received was in the Chinese culture and in the yogic culture, the Hindu yoga culture in the subcontinent of India, they are both cultures that understand the flow of subtle energy and consciousness, meaning our interior world, and they're also still operating from it. Whereas in the West, we may have had some of that knowledge or wisdom in our alchemists, but then the alchemists went underground into the mystery schools, or the Celts were overrun and that went underground into the mystery schools. So there wasn't that sense of understanding of, if I go in and work with my consciousness, then I am affecting my subtle energy field, then am I affecting what I'm able to see, perceive, and also magnetize to me. So quantum physics came along a bit after that and said, there's waves, and when you have a repeated thought, or when you have a strong emotional thought, like not just one simple, I want to go eat a Danish, it doesn't translate into collapsing a wave. But if it's a strong, intense emotional thought, or it's repeated, then that's when the wave collapses into a particle, meaning it goes out of energy and into matter. So there's like this basic tenet in traditional Chinese medicine, where qi goes, blood follows. So qi means vital life force energy, or prana, as we say in yoga. And I teach qigong and yoga, both from both cultures. So that means where energy goes, blood follows. That means where energy goes, the physical follows. So nowadays, it's where consciousness goes, energy follows, and then matter. So I came back to the States after a decade of living in Asia. I was a full-time teacher and administrator, still running energy medicine and holistic health and wellness sessions on the side, now teaching from my first major in college, AP Psych. I also created a course, Global Psychology. I taught meditation to the students, as well as English Lit. And on the side, still ran those energy medicine and holistic health and wellness sessions. Got my PhD as a holistic life coach. Wrote my dissertation, became my first book. My last year in Asia, came back to the States with this first book, What If There's Nothing Wrong? And realized that my mission was to help reduce the concept even of we're meant to suffer, and reduce the actual levels of suffering by helping people acknowledge, feel comfortable, and understand the actual mechanics and laws that are involved in working with your consciousness beyond your thoughts you can hear, and the chakra column, accessing subtle energy through the chakra column. And that when we do that, there's all of our human potential can be released and realized. And then we end up working with the law of attraction. But then it's interesting because we're in such an incredible time between 2012 and 2032. It's all we've seen since 2012 is the crumbling of the old. And the new hasn't gotten built yet. So it's been a really interesting time. People themselves have had crises, and so they shift into maybe not even needing crises. They're in a corporate job, they hate it, they do something based on their passion and make money from it. All these kinds of shifts are happening, and it's only right now that the building phase is starting in this next 10 years. So it's been really harmonious with the nature of the times that we're in to come back from the decade in Asia and drop the classroom teaching and take this work full time.
Wow. When did you come back?
2010.
Oh, so you've been back. Okay, got it. Yeah, that is so interesting. So you say, so I understand about quantum physics and the particles and the waves, but I didn't ever hear about how when you really focus hard on something, how the wave becomes a particle and then the particle becomes matter. But it all starts with the consciousness. So what is something that you yourself have practiced or taught your students, how to direct the consciousness in a productive way or a beneficial way?
So I don't have a simple answer to that. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Thank you. Thank you. It's an unraveling, Tracy. And it's not necessarily focusing on a particle to get it, or focusing on a wave to get it to collapse into a particle, because particle means physical. It's not about focus only. It's about, and I know you're using words I used, it's in order to have that kind of a energy, a consciousness, a presence that can collapse a wave into a particle or can manifest what you're desiring. In order to be able to do that and have it show up close to what you wanted or something better, there is so much that has to happen first. The law of attraction, God bless it. I love it. I've worked with it myself, but the universal laws I'm aware of go beyond that. And I feel like I've seen a lot of people come to me feeling like they should have been able to make the law of attraction work for them, and they haven't. And when they have something show up that's bad, they then label it as that, and they've done something wrong, because how could I have manifested something so bad in my life? How could I have attracted this in my life? So I feel like there's a lot of oversimplification that's happened as a result of social media and posts and memes that are out there. But you have to have yourself cleared. If we're going to have the power to co-create with the divine, you can't do it from an ego-based, ego-dominant perspective where you would abuse the power. In order to access more of the capacity to create energy into matter, you have to have enough of a purified, up-leveled or upgraded vibration so that you can then be more of the matching vibration that the innocence and the unconditional love of all of life force all around us and within us is. And that's what we then move into the directed way and desired way. Does that make sense?
No, but I know that you know it does. And I love everything that you're saying, because this is the journey that I am so wanting to be on.
Cool.
But it's really deep,
It is. It's not. People tell me the feedback I've had is you simplify very complex ideas. So let me see if I can do that again, because there's a lot of steps. I'm talking basically about the keys of the universe. What do you want to ask?
Well, so the first thing that stuck out to me is you said we need clearing. And the reason that stuck out to me is yesterday do you know who Tamara Wright is from Australia? Mm-hmm. So she was on my show a while back. She's lovely. And she did a whole 2-hour reading for me yesterday. And she used that word clearing, that we need to clear 55 years of stuff to make sure, because she said I was a level 6 soul or something like that. Great.
Never heard of
That's just
great souls, but good.
Yeah, she just says when you come here that
Mm-hmm.
you're going to be she has kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th grade. And so anyways, long story short, that stuck out to me, this clearing. And you said it again, which when I hear something twice like that, I'm I got to pay attention. That's an important word.
So I get that this is an example of divine orchestration to bring me in the next day after you get that and hear that, to help. Your higher self has a good ability to call to you what you need. Everybody's does that. We can just interfere with that grace and ease that's inherent to the universe with all of our demands and whines and complaints, so whining. So clearing, what I mean by that is you could have been, so from ages 0 to 2, Tracy, we're not separate from our parents. So everything they're thinking and feeling, we are. At age 2, when we start going, no, so gratefully you're laughing instead of pulling your hair out, because it can be the terrible twos. That's when we're, and our kids or and our grandkids, whatever, are forming their ego identity. They're separating from the parents and they're starting to become their own individual self. So from 2 to 8, that's when our neurology is forming. So everything that I do is a combination of what I've learned from Western psych and personal training and anatomy, and then Eastern practices of meditation, how consciousness works in meditation, how the mind works, and then how the subtle energy system works, i.e. the chakra system, for example. So this is Western developmental psychology, ages 2 to 8, where our neurology is forming. So we're sitting there. If we have what do you have for siblings?
I just have one brother.
Is he older or younger?
Younger.
Okay. So it's possible that your younger brother from ages 2 to 8 looked at how you got yummy smiles and affection from, let's say, mom. And he had the question in his mind, how do I get that? Well, let me look at what Tracy's doing. She's being a really good girl. She seems to follow behind mom and clean up. And I guess if I'm a really good boy and I follow around behind mom and I do a lot of cleaning up, that will get me that same yummy feeling. So into the unconscious goes the conclusion: in order for me to get good feelings from people, I have to be like them and I have to help. Mm-hmm. You getting it now?
Yeah.
So then that's only one. That's only from. So then we have conditioning from our society, like in America, we're conditioned, I think it feels to me, to work harder than in other cultures. Like we don't honor siestas. We honor adrenal burnout more so here. And there's also a sense I get in America, different than in other cultures, that we're proving ourselves because we started as a colony and rebelled and said, we don't need you, oh crown, mother. We can produce our own textiles, for example. We can produce our own, look at us, we have tobacco, we have corn, you don't have that. So there's been this rebellious proving sense that's in the American psyche too. So there's collective conditioning from your culture. And then we come in with contracts. So a chakra means wheel. We have 7 main ones, one at the top of our head, one in between our eyes, one in our throat, one at our heart, one in our upper belly, one in our lower belly, one in our tailbone. And every yoga pose you do in any yoga class is based on opening those. Mm-hmm. You'd never know it because hardly any yoga studio in the West. When I was in India and asking the director of the school, I said, what do you see us make the biggest mistake of, us Westerners, when we take yoga back? And his answer to me, of course, was that Asian indirect. It wasn't a direct answer like we do in the States. He said, angry people have tight hamstrings.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
But as a yoga teacher in the classroom, men hardly ever can touch their toes without bending their knees because the hamstrings are so tight. They can hardly ever do the wide-legged floor side bend because the hamstrings are so tight. They have to have the knees up off the floor. Tight hamstrings are very, not just with men, but in particularly the difference I see with those tight hamstrings is between men and women in the touching of the toes. So if a chakra is a meaning wheel, and it's supposed to turn the chi or the prana or the vital life force energy, it's also the intersection of the mind, the body, and the spirit. So, like San Francisco has the interstate, it has side roads, it has alternate routes to get to it. Think of each chakra as an urban center, and that there are a bunch of side roads and bigger roads and interstates that lead to it. Those are what we call in Chinese medicine meridians, and in yoga nadis. So that's how the energy travels throughout your body. So you're nodding, you get it. But then if it's an intersection of the mind, the body, and the spirit, each chakra covers a certain area in life. So if I'm your younger brother and I now have this unconscious conclusion that I have to be like the person in order to get that yummy feeling from them, and I need to be helpful, that may go into his third and fourth chakras. The third one, because it has to do with boundaries, it has to do with self-worth and self-confidence, and he may abandon himself and feel less confident because he feels like I can only get love or that yummy feeling when I'm like the other person and I'm helpful.
Wow.
So then I go in and I will clear that. And so trauma goes into the subconscious because we can't field with presence consciously a trauma. The nature of it has to go to the subconscious. So there's different levels of consciousness where only our conscious mind are the thoughts that we hear. 85% of what is going on in our mind, we don't hear, at least 85%. It's only at most 15%. That is when we sit down in meditation and observe our thoughts, we can actually hear of what's going on. So our daily choices are made from this unconscious and subconscious place, 85% of them. So if I'm a woman single and I'm wanting to get over the bad boy pattern and I'm wanting to start dating some nice guys, I could go to a party and I could naturally check out the bad boys, and there could be this nice guy right over here standing here and I would miss him because I don't know that's a possibility, because my lockdown back here has me gravitating, my beliefs back here, my back of the house consciousness, I call it, has me noticing the same pattern, the same vibration, meaning the bad boy guy. So when we do these kinds of clearings, it then opens up to our consciousness to have, instead of blocked energy, now it's flowing, and now we have more consciousness to add to that 15% to make more conscious choices. It's almost like our peripheral vision widens, so we would notice that new energy from that nice guy over there that would represent a new pattern.
Ah, that's interesting. So you can add to the percentage of your conscious mind?
Yeah.
Oh, I've never heard that. What type of energy work do you do? Are you do Reiki, or what one do you do?
I created the Vibrational UPgrade System as a combination of energy medicine and applied mindfulness. So once you have the clearing of that block, like maybe you never got the kind of attention you wanted from your dad, and so you're used to running after emotionally unavailable men. So as you come out of that pattern, I can clear it, and then the mind has a momentum. You know those wind-up teeth on a counter?
Yeah.
Yeah. So even though I've cleared it using the energy medicine, so I'm trained in 5 different modalities, and my first one was and is Usui Reiki, and I'm only 6 removed from the founder, the creator, Dr. Usui himself. It's a very pure lineage. And then I have 4 additional ones on top of that, and then from all of those, in my yoga and meditation teacher background, in psych background, I put them together into the Vibrational UPgrade System. So it's a system of the energy medicine clearings and activations, and then it's the applied mindfulness. So it's not like mindful while eating an apple. It's the mindfulness of my momentum of the old pattern of I need to chase after men because I don't get attention from them. So I need to chase after the emotionally unavailable men. You have it cleared out of the unconscious and subconscious. So now I use that released new consciousness to redirect and retrain into noticing when you're making, in the midst of a choice on a dating site, that same old guy, having the now awareness, because you have the awakened consciousness, to make a new choice.
Wow, that's cool.
It works. I keep doing it. It's brilliant. I'm really pleased with the universe giving me this guidance and my, honestly, cojones to listen to the guidance and move across the planet and do the things I've done to learn it. It's incredible. We are meant to live up to potential, Tracy. That's the point. So that 85% is where we access the human potential to really live a much more awakened, conscious life instead of repeating the past. So that's what she meant by it. So it's not like at 55 years old, I've got to come out of all of this. but there are key parts that when I work with women in their 50s and men in their 50s and 60s and 40s, I mean, there are key parts of their system. So when I was talking about the chakra column, the chakras, the mind, you've already heard about the different levels of consciousness. So the body level of chakras, every chakra connects to an endocrine gland. Mm. And then Candace Pert, who was studying for a pharmaceutical company, different antidepressants, she was aware of the chakra column, and she noticed that along the spinal column, where there were the biggest gatherings of neuroreceptors that are receivers of brain messages, the central nervous system, these biggest gatherings of nerve ganglia that had the neuroreceptors were at where each chakra is. So that's our two communication systems of our bodies: electrical, meaning central nervous system, and chemical or hormonal, meaning endocrine. And the chakras are covered to each one, especially the thyroid with the fifth chakra. So that's and then the area. So if I have a tight neck, it might not just be because my posture's sucking. It could be because I don't feel like I am heard. So there's that first level of the fifth chakra, the throat communication stuff. But there's this whole other level that I find, and it's much more advanced, and it's about living in these times. This is the creative chakra. I don't mean macrame or arts and crafts. I mean creating our lives with every choice, co-creating. And so courage sits here. And when you feel like your possibilities are limited or restricted, like I can't leave this corporate job and do what I love because I need the insurance, if you live in the States, for my kids, so I need to stay stuck in this job, that makes you feel like you have no choice. That would cause a tight neck. That could also cause a thyroid issue. So that's all the intersection with the body. And it's reliable and it's consistent. I have used it for years to deal with people's health issues. I no longer really treat health issues because it's just too much for me. If something is gotten in emotions or thought, even before it's a strong emotional pattern, if it's in thought or emotions, it's easier, it's more subtle. Once it's physicalized into a physical problem, it takes more subtle energy clearings, more volume to break down something that's already physicalized, and just took too much for me and it wasn't fun. So I stopped doing it. So instead of dematerializing what had already become matter, for years I've been working with instead, bringing into materialization what is only an energy. And it's more fun. So the spirit part, mind, body, spirit part, because a chakra is the intersection of the mind, body, and spirit. This is how I can access past life and karmic stuff. And I spent decades, at this point, and tons of thousands of dollars learning how to clear karma, because it's tricky. So we each come in with like two kind of core patterns to move beyond. And in order to move beyond them, this is where the spirit or the soul part comes in. So it's fascinating. So it's not like at 55 you have all this stuff to clear, but in a way it is, but it's only going to help you reach more of your potential and have your everyday life. I don't mean like you're going to all of a sudden go teach yoga or live on top of a mountain and have some big serene life. I mean, like in your daily life here, you're not going to go walking around with this exposed third eye that can see and perceive everything. I'm talking about being able to run your business with more smoothness. I'm talking about being able to have more loving relationships and not rush and all of that, great, more abundance. So it's for everyday life. It's not for some spiritual quest.
So that's awesome. I'm totally on board with that because I do understand about the physics leading, and when you have the distortion in your energy field, and then you need to clear that before a biological symptom shows up. But it's like our doctors of today, they only focus on biology and chemistry without looking at the other science of physics, which I just don't understand. I mean, I'm really thinking that that's all going to shift, but I'm into all that stuff. Like, have you seen this, like the Tesla type energy stuff that's coming? Have you seen any of this stuff? This is like up your alley, right?
I do that with my hands, and I teach my students how to do that with my hands and my energy field. So you're getting a clearing just by being in my field. I'm like a saxophone at this point because I have used my system. I have fine-tuned it. I'm naturally gifted in this way, I learned, but then I have chosen to learn how to cultivate it. And because I've used it in this way, like you play a saxophone over the years, you just naturally get better. So because I've used my system to clear for so many people for the decades I have, like 2.5, I'm naturally clearing people. Like another podcast host, when I was interviewing him, he actually started to cough. And he was just, I didn't know this, but he was just getting sick. He didn't actually start to cough. I did, because I was clearing his throat. And I always know whenever I start to cough, I'm clearing others. It's a wild phenomena. So my field carries a vibration that you then entrain to. And so you may sleep longer tonight. You may go to sleep earlier tonight. You may be wired and go to sleep later because your creative juices got flowing. So it just depends on where you're at. But yeah, I'm like that. It's the electromagnetic field, and that's all they're doing is they're working with the electromagnetic fields, and chi, or life force, is electric and magnetic. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Tracy, it's fascinating to me what you said too about the doctors, because when I was over in Taiwan and traveling around Southeast Asia during my Chinese New Year breaks, I would go get treatments, and I write about it in my first book, What If There's Nothing Wrong, what it's like to get like your emotions asked about when you're at a doctor. So I would go to an acupuncturist, and like one of the typical questions is, how have your stress levels been? And like your reactivity level. And they would look at the tongue, they'd look at the pulse, other physical symptoms too, but it wasn't just, it was considering the spirit. It was considering the emotions. It was considering the whole being. And when I came back to the States, I gave one of my first talks I gave at a Mind Body Life Expo on meditation. It was my first signature talk called The Nature of the Mind. An integrative doctor who had just opened up a clinic locally was there. We met afterwards outside and saw if we're collaborating together would work. And he looked at my, I didn't have a resume, so to speak, but he looked at the work that I'd done so far. And he's like, Alison, you got to focus on something. And I said, I am focused on the whole person. That's why I have yoga teacher training. That's why I have meditation teacher training. That's why I'm trained in psychology. That's why I'm trained as a personal trainer. That's why I look at the anatomy as well as the spirit. That's why I'm trained in energy medicine. It's a whole system. And he was an integrated doctor. So
that should make sense to him, right?
But it still didn't. That's
weird. I have almost all the stuff you have except for not the psychology or the PhD or master's, but I do yoga, I do breath work, meditation, personal training, all of that. So, but I never realized when I took the brand High Energy Girl, Alison, like it was just because like I was working with a business consultant, and they said, ask everybody their experience of you with 3 adjectives. And I happened to be doing hot yoga at the time. So I'm at the studio. I'm like, okay, what is your, like, give me 3 adjectives that you would, and I had made everybody write them down. The one that was the red thread was the energy. So I said, okay, High Energy Girl. That was the name we came up with. And that was, I don't know, 8 years ago, maybe. Well, the crazy thing is, little did I know, it took on a whole new meaning. I started doing Qigong. I'm at level 3 Reiki Usui Holy Fire. I am doing another reconnective healing with Dr. Eric Pearl. But I know that there's this universal life force. And then when I had that meeting last night, she's like, oh no, you are like already a master soul. You just need to work on perfecting where you're at. Meaning, I think it means that I've been here so many times already, that I've been working on my soul all these times. I'm not exactly sure. She said so much stuff I had to record it just so I could decipher what she's like, listen to this whole thing 2 more times. Yeah. But it's exciting because you clearly have done all of this work already, and I'm just so attracted to that. It's what our world needs is what you have.
Thank you, sister. I really appreciate you saying that about my life's work.
Oh, if people only had a clue how important it is. They always say, oh, science, science, and they think this is all woo-woo. But if they looked at physics and looked at an atom and they realized that their body is 99.99% energy, they might get a clue, but that's not what they learn in medical school, and they trust their doctors. I have so many people say to me, I'm not going to listen to you, Tracy. You're not my doctor. I'm like, oh my gosh. Allopathic medicine has brainwashed our culture.
So Tracy, I totally hear your frustration. I understand where you're at. My first book that I keep referring to with you, and I've written 4.
I need to get one of your books. Hold on. Let me get a pen so I can write down the name. Okay. What book of yours should I read first?
To go into the science, what if there's nothing wrong? And all of them are under my name on Amazon. So just put my name, Alison, use the J.
Okay.
There's an Alison Kay, K-A-Y, without the middle initial J on there too. So What If There's Nothing Wrong is my first book where you're going to get the science. And then it's funny because my third book, Reasonable Dragon, it's not the newly released book. That's Dragon Master Creatrix. I'm looking around because I want to hold it up. And I have it right there, but I'd have to walk away. So I'm going to get it. It's a really pretty cover.
Go ahead, get it. And I don't think I need the science. I think I understand the science enough. I need to know next level.
This is it.
Ooh, that's beautiful. And those are my favorite colors, pink and orange. That's it. Dragon.
These are my branding colors. Dragon Master Creatrix.
Okay. Thank you.
This is actually, and so the subtitle is Conversations with a Female Spiritual Teacher for These New Times. In my book prior to that one, called Reasonable Dragons, this is actually on audibles.com too. I taped it after, it says, I forget the subtitle, sorry, hold on. How to activate the field of possibilities where logical magic is the new norm. Logical magic. So there's a state we reach, Tracy, and listeners, that I've seen, and I was just talking about this with another podcast show host the other day, and it's like when I have a lot of lawyers, attorney, I keep doing that. I say those two words together as if they're different professions. You choose which one. Doctors, politicians, scientists, a lot of intellectual people, because I just like you're talking about the science approach, I approached it from that way to be able to explain it, how this energy stuff works, to my Western geared brain as well. So I'm good at translating that to others, I've been told. And so the science aspect of it, by Reasonable Dragons, I'm calling it practical magic, or logical magic rather, because all of these intellectuals seem like I was geared towards and am geared towards beyond left brain, right brain balancing, what I consider a whole brain consciousness. So it's like your intellect is infused with intuition. So it's like this higher order you're operating from. When you have much more access to more awakened consciousness, that awakened consciousness is more alive. And so you're more present and conscious to be able to make more choices that are more aligned from your higher self, your soul, your heart, the higher parts of you, rather than, oh man, this sucks, or oh man, I'm never going to get on this side of the way, or oh man, this is never going to change, or just like that baseline level that the ego mind brings us back to, that the practice of meditation helps us pull off of. But these clearings and activations help speed that up, frankly. So what I'm talking about is this whole brain consciousness that, because of what I've already mentioned about having more awakened consciousness, more present, you can see an infusion of your logic with a sense of intuition. So when you are spiritual, it's not like you're just dropping your logical mind. There seems to be like this, you know what I mean?
Yeah, either or, yeah.
Yeah, and it's in the times we're in right now is about rebalancing the spiritual and the material, the feminine and the masculine, the physical and the metaphysical, meaning beyond. That's what meta prefix means. So literally, these are the times we're in. And if you look around, there's more yoga studios. There's more meditation apps. And even before COVID, there's been more meditation apps. So that's a sign of our spiritual awakening time. So with this whole brain consciousness, it doesn't mean you're abandoning science. But as I say in Reasonable Dragons, which is why I grabbed it, is I start to question, why do you need to rely on science? If the third scientific method is the naturalist observation method, not the lab controlled study, or there's a lab controlled and there's a lab uncontrolled study, and then there's naturalist observation. If I remember correctly, I might have messed those first two up. It's been a while because I haven't bothered with it, frankly. Meditation is naturalist observation. If you can see, all right, when I make that choice to interact with that person, I always leave feeling heavier. Or, Tracy, maybe for you, when I make that choice to work with this level of clients who are resistant to listening to something beyond the science, how I feel is not good, So what would it take for me to make a different choice? What else is possible? So that's just neutral observation of your system. And so then using that, you don't need a scientific measurement of what happens to your system when you're working with people that make you feel, that don't make you feel, but you end up feeling, because of your own belief system and operating system, you end up feeling like, damn it, I just wish they'd get this. So there's an element of frustration, there's an element of bitterness, and that actually is affecting the heart chakra. So it's going to make you even more in the head and harder to access your heart when you're frustrated. We don't want that for you, Tracy. You high energy girl. We have so much, yeah, from that you can contribute. So what if you were working with people who weren't of that nature?
Well, it's not my clients that give me this shit. It is friends. My clients already have enough exposure to me to make the decision to work with me. So they're more committed and soak in the information. It's my friends and family that think I'm off the rocker. Like, you know, all the stuff they do. So I just, I just let them be me, let them be them. And I don't even offer my opinion anymore on anything unless I'm asked. And then I say, are you sure you want to hear what I have to say? Because I just have to, I've learned the hard way that I have to really hold my tongue.
Yeah, but Tracy, it's like that for so many people. And I just did this interview with a woman who has a strong light workers community, and she's from not America. And it was interesting to talk with her because I feel like from what I've seen, there are so many people who are talking about what you and I are talking about, and they feel like black sheeps, or they feel unaccepted. And this may be in part why I moved to a place across the planet for a decade where energy is primary and the physical is secondary, to be able to come back and help stop that pattern. Because from what I know, like I was on an interview in 2011-ish, and the interviewer said to me, isn't this all just woo? And I said to him, I just came back from a place where over half the rest of the world, frankly, lives from the understanding of energy is more important than the physical, and that the physical gets created from energy.
Yeah.
So at this point, just dismissing this all as woo, frankly, is ignorant at this stage of the game. So that felt really damn good.
Good.
And thanks. And so I also know that everything is choice. And for a person to choose to not need a crisis to learn about the holisticness of our systems so that they can heal that crisis, there has to be choice, like your clients. So apparently those friends and family members aren't making that choice. And so as you've already made your own choice, okay, I'm not going to expend that frustration there.
Yeah.
But so many people report that, and that's all what's rebalancing now. And so in a way, it's almost like their resistance. So in any element of natural healing, you know how a fever has to peak before it breaks? Mm-hmm. That level of the rebalancing of the spiritual and material and the re-emergence of the importance of the metaphysical with the physical, many people are in resistance to, and they're clinging to needing it proven by science, when in fact science is many times biased as well, depending on who's funded the study.
No joke. Yes.
So having a sense of this sense of rational, logical, intuitively informed consciousness, instead of I have to believe the authority figures, I can't assess for myself, they're abandoning themselves. And they're also still in victim mode to something outside of them to tell them what's real and what's true. And that's what I'm asking in Reasonable Dragons, because we're meant to no longer be a victim to anything, including our own beliefs. In this time, we're supposed to be stepping into empowered co-creator, that by choice, we're creating our lives. So we can't blame anybody or anything outside of us, except for maybe 10% randomness for anything in our lives.
Random. I like that. I have a question for you. Okay, so I've been reading a lot about the pineal gland and how things like fluoride shut it off and crystallize it or calcify it or whatever. And that pineal gland is part of our spirit connection, our third eye. Are you familiar with any of that?
I have a double shower filter on my shower head.
Oh, to get the fluoride out and the chlorine?
Not just one fluoride remover, 2. So the pineal gland is super, super sensitive. And yes, to it, instead of crystallizing, it calcifies, hardens from the fluoride in the water. So it's an interesting phenomenon in the path of enlightenment from meditating and doing enough yoga. It's considered a part of the path of enlightenment, is once you've done enough practices and raised or cleared and purified, as I've spoken, and raised your consciousness and thus vibration, this then turns on or activates in a way that is crystallized. So then you have more access to the co-creation, which is meant to be happening with. So the higher self in the yogic understanding resides above the crown chakra. So we access that higher self, and then from beyond there, we access the divine. And so when I say co-creation, I mean not creating from only I want to eat that, but creating from a higher set of guidance. Mm-hmm. And so you access that more by having a healthy pineal.
Yeah, I was looking at that because my old career was in dental, and I've never been a fluoride pusher because I'm not into chemicals, and they all said, "Oh, you have to the ADA, blah blah blah," and I've always been no. We live in the country, so we have a well. We don't have fluoride. But
you're blessed. You have a well.
Yeah, yeah, and an RO.
Water, fantastic.
Yeah, so we don't have to worry about that, but I'm trying to educate people. And I read this quote that Dr. Reverend Christopher Macklin stated that fluoride was even used in concentration camps during World War II to cause people to act like sheep and follow orders.
Yep.
Which is, exactly what we were just talking about, is it takes away that connection.
And sovereignty.
Yeah. So
I don't know, Tracy, if it's that big of a conspiracy. While I have always questioned, I feel like there's a limit. We've gone out overboard and out of balance. Like when I see somebody, let's say I'm working with this client on their third chakra, they don't have a lot of self-esteem and self-worth, and they yield to the groupthink easily. And so when we're working to clear that so that they can stand in their own power, be more confident, I see sometimes as it clears out, it goes in the opposite direction. So they'll swagger around at home, and their husbands will be like, "Oh wow, we got to wait for you to get this done," because it just becomes too much. I'm sorry, my headphones dropped the second time here. So it seems like the conspiracy theory blow up is a little bit out of balance, because I don't know that they intentionally, because part of my master's was to go to water treatment plants. I took classes at actual water treatment plants here in Florida, and I didn't perceive in the policy of let's make fluoride a part of the water supply. I didn't perceive intuitively, because I was already doing energy medicine and teaching meditation at that point, a malicious intent. But I know that here locally, for example, when they finally, the local city council removed fluoride from the water supply, and that only lasted for a couple of months, and then that city council member who really advocated for it, she got removed, and then they brought the fluoride back into the water. So, I don't know if there is some secret CIA document that says we must put fluoride in all the water, and that's why it came back in. I don't believe dentists are malicious and want to you know what I mean? So I
agree.
Somewhere, I just don't know where.
Oh, I totally agree, because they do it because they think it's going to give you less cavities. And the reason I've been against it for all these years is because I also know it makes brittle bones. And I just don't eat sugar, so that helps prevent cavities. And I would rather avoid brittle bones, because that to me is a bigger problem. So I don't think it comes from that at all, as far as the malicious intent. And I think that they really believe that it helps people. But I'm just saying that I was looking up foods to help decalcify the pineal gland. And I found the apricot seeds, and I can't remember, maybe oil of oregano or something like that. But that's when I read that quote, was on, I don't know, it's innovativemedicine.com.
I've seen it too. A long time ago I saw it, and I saw it recently. Yes, about the concentration camps, yes.
Yeah, and I was like, well, that's weird. But I just have it up on my browser because I was working on this blog article, and and I thought since we were talking about that.
I don't know that it's been intentionally put in our water supply to keep us controlled. I'm not saying it hasn't been totally open, but I don't know where that ends. Do you know what I mean? Like, I question for you, sole reliance on pharmaceuticals. I have a story. I'll use it because you have the clients that you have. A woman who's in this spa, all women's gym. They're in the water area, the wet area. They're going into the steam room together, and a woman in her 60s asked a woman in her 90s who's all spry, no walking assistance needed, how have you stayed so healthy? And she said, I never took Western meds. And that was at a local gym that I used to go to when I first got back from Asia. And so I know that there's stuff that I have seen, the chemical aspect coming out of homeopathy, which is what we were first using, and then Congress had it removed on the floor, I believe in the early 1900s, any trace out of the records about homeopathics, and then they got replaced with pharmaceuticals. I talk about that in my first book too. So pharmaceuticals have some, especially when they're used for antidepressants or anything anti-anxiety, they're really addictive. The people really have a hard time getting off of them, and it's almost like on that level they create what they're there to treat. Whereas like special heart medicine that's helped save people's lives, I'm all for. But the big three, I mean, look at you. You're saying, how do I heal this from food? I say, eat your way out of it. You know, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, diabetes, eat your way out of it. Take your power back.
That is a good quote. I'm going to steal it. Eat your way out of it.
Thank you for the feel free to credit though too.
So, well, the funny thing that you just said that is one of my clients had like an A1C, so total diabetic, you know, bad everything. And her doctor sent her to a dietitian in the office. And then she ran into me online. She ended up becoming my client. In 2 months, her A1C dropped by 2 full points. So she's no longer diabetic. Her triglycerides went down by like 200 points, which is ginormous. That's crazy. And the doctor said to her, do not tell the dietitian. Like, he didn't want to hurt her feelings. And my client's like, oh, of course I'm going to tell her. She needs to know that there's other ways to help your guys' patients. You know, it's like this worked better for her. And anyways, that was just kind of a fun story. But it's all about, I think it all starts with food. You know, Hippocrates said, let food be your medicine and medicine be your food. You know?
When I lived in Asia, they had like stands, food stands and night markets. And there was this particular grass jelly stand that people would go to whenever their throat started to get sore. I mean, it's in garlic and ginger. I just understood how much to use that to boost your immune system. The minute you start to feel, I mean, like there's just such common understanding of use my food to heal myself in other places around the world. In America, for many corporate reasons and capitalistic reasons, that's been removed. Mm-hmm. Like once I think, God bless Kraft macaroni and cheese in the blue box. Grew up on it, loved it, never have touched it for decades now. But once those packaged meals started showing up on those counters and the monocrop agriculture started, I mean, it's just been an entirely different story. And now we're coming out of it, realizing the impacts of it.
Well, you know, it's crazy. I did a video about this semi-recently. Do you know that the ketchup that they sell to the U.S. people is completely different than the ketchup that they export to Europe?
Yeah, it typically is.
That's bullshit. Like, if it's good enough to send to Europe, then it should be good enough to feed our people here in this country.
But crazy. We don't ask for it. When you go to the EU, they demand it. Like, part of the biggest thing with Brexit was because they didn't want the Irish borders open. I was going there. That's where I take my students in this book, Dragon Master Creatrix. You'll learn this. This is where I train people in vibrational upgrade medicine. And I talk about that in there. The woman who's narrating it is on a training with me over there in Glastonbury, UK, going to stone circles and sacred sites and receiving the attunements. And that she's narrating the first half of every chapter. And then there's a Q&A with me afterwards. Yeah, so I mean, you may want to consider getting certified with me, but that's beside the point. When over in the UK, because I'm there frequently, twice a year leading these retreats, the biggest thing around Brexit was that Irish border, because they didn't want to get the chicken from the United States into the EU, because Southern Ireland is still EU, Northern Ireland is UK. So they didn't want to. They didn't know what to do about the border because they didn't want to risk getting our crap chicken into the EU via that loose border. Wow. So. Yeah, it's insane. So they never allowed, the EU never allowed GMOs in their soil, ever.
Oh, that's cool.
But it's because the citizens are on top of it.
Well, it's awareness, right? People don't know what they don't know.
And a lot of them just prefer, they're lazy and they like their comfort and they prefer like the taste of comfort foods, and they also have addictive components to them, as you know.
Wow. This has been the best interview, Alison. I swear. Like, you are amazing. You are really, really, really cool. So before we close, and I know that your hour is probably up, but let me ask you two things. The first is if you were to tell our listeners just even one thing that they can do to improve their, I don't know what the word is, energy field, what would you tell people that they should do, like as a daily or weekly practice?
So really what helps, there is such an interrelationship between our thoughts and our energy. Recognizing that hopefully is something you're doing more as a result of listening. So ask a thought that you hear, especially one that doesn't bring you joy. Well, is that even true? So it's something like this. You know, where it's just not, you don't let yourself go on robotics. Instead, you question your thoughts. And not only that, you then redirect, as this bullhorn, as the ear horn does, redirect into, okay, I hear you, acknowledging, but what else is possible? Because when we ask a question, it opens up an invitation from our field to the universe to bring that, to fill that vacuum. When we walk around with a bunch of thoughts about I know, and conclusions about how life works for us, how money behaves with us, how our love behaves with us, how our health behaves with us, that leaves no room for anything new. So if you can start to unravel the thoughts that you actually hear consciously by just questioning, well, I hear you, okay, but is that even true? Like if your mind, it's not your body, but if your mind is saying, go have that extra piece of pizza, well, do you really even want that? I mean, that's such an obvious example. I mean more like, do you really have to go do that other task? Or does that person really even bring you down? Like when you're having those normal everyday thoughts. Does that make sense?
I think that also has to do to be mindful to even get to that place, like learn to be more mindful and slow down so that you take the time to ask yourself those questions.
Yeah, I mean, but that's why I run all the clearings and activations I do, because it speeds up that space for the increased mindfulness. But I don't want to say in response to you, buy one of my products or come in and work with me.
Well, that's the next question is tell us what you have on your website. Like what types of things will the listeners find available on your website?
My website's Alison with one L, JKAY.com and vibrationalupgrade.com. They're the same one. Vibrationalupgrade.com's shop has in it, for example, a meditation product. It includes that signature talk, The Nature of the Mind, on track 1. And the second track is, I have always taught Buddha's most frequently taught meditation technique. And on the second track, you have that for 20 minutes so you can establish your own practice by using that day in and day out and then letting it go once you've got the path established, so to speak. That's the cheapest thing on my shop. It's such a strong tool. It's ironic. And then there's like some clearings and activations I've done from the Mayan ruins and ones I've done from stone circles in the UK and sacred sites over there. Then there's themed products like how to come out of feeling like you absorb everybody's negative energy. Another one, how to have more joy and ease rather than thinking things are so hard and serious. Another one is self-empowerment and freedom. So there's all these products. The Chakra series is the one to go to if you want to just go at it now and get changed now. The Chakra 2 and Audio series is my signature product. And people love stopping yourself too. That's another product that's there. It's like the second most popular. And that's on 50% off right now, by the way, actually. And then my books. People love the Audible version of Reasonable Dragons on audibles.com, and then Amazon has all 4 of my books. On my website, if you actually want to come in and work with me directly, you'll see on the top, work with me. And I have a signature program, Magic Manifestation of Money Flow. It's a prerequisite to being able to become a vibrational upgrade practitioner because it's helping you clear your stuff out and bring you, as you did this alignment with your hand, this alignment motioning with your hand for people who are listening to the audio. When Tracy was asking me, she was doing this motion with her hand as if to say my central column is aligned. And so I consider that like the flow. And so the reason why my signature program is Magic, Manifestation, and Money Flow is when you're in that alignment, then the flow is naturally in place and you can manifest as if by magic, and that includes money. But it's also well beyond that. It's the metaphysical, but applied to the physical life. So a lot of people come in who want to build their business, who want to get up to the next level, or start an energy medicine business, or have their own business, or want to get out of the corporate world and start their own business, or a mom who's just become empty nested and wants to get more in touch with herself. So that's Magic, Manifestation, and Money Flow. That's a powerhouse of a program, and that's under the Work With Me tab.
Okay. That sounds awesome. I'll have to check that out for sure. And I also want to get your book. I'm really wanting to read about ways to ascend and improve my, I hate using I'm not sure if the right word is spiritual, but you know what I'm saying? What's the right word when I'm trying to?
I call it a vibrational upgrade.
Oh, ooh, okay. That's a good one. A vibrational upgrade.
Yeah, it's the name of my system. Or you could say vibrationally, make it an adverb, vibrationally upgrade. Because you get to access to a lot more once you have a higher vibration. You really do. You can access a lot more of the universe's secrets. You have more ease working with the laws. This is what I was saying in the beginning. And you were like, I don't really understand what you just said. I understand the physics, but that was deep. So once you get there, a higher vibration, your vibration is upgraded, then all of that stuff I talked about in the beginning is easier.
Cool.
Yeah.
You're a rock star. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Yeah, I'm so grateful we chose to dance together. It was brilliant. I knew it would be. When I saw your name, I was like, yes.
Yeah, isn't it funny how the name actually meant something different now than it did then? You know?
I don't know that it did, Tracy. I just knew you were a yes, to say yes to you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, between your own name and High Energy Girl, the energy behind, like, that's how I do things. Like, I guide my students how to do that. Like, if you have 3 opportunities come in, who you can sense energetically behind the person's name intuitively, like which one to go with first and which one to go with second and which one to maybe not go with at all.
Yeah.
Which to open, which emails to avoid, which emails can wait, you know?
Everybody's always like, hey, did you get this last email? I just want to bump it up to the top of your inbox. I'm like, sorry. Anyways, well, hey, listen, thank you so much for coming on the show. Alison, you are a doll, and I really enjoyed our discussion.
Me too. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed the show. Please make sure to check out Dr. Alison's links on the show notes page at highenergygirl.com/show. If you haven't done so already, please head on over to our YouTube channel, give us a rating and review, and please share this episode with a friend who you think would enjoy the show. See you on the next one. This podcast contains the opinion and thoughts of its host and guests. It is intended to provide helpful and informative material on the subjects covered. All statements made on the podcast have not been evaluated by the FDA and are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease. If the listener requires professional assistance or advice, please contact your personal medical doctor. Both host and guest specifically disclaim any responsibility for any liability, loss, or risk, personal or otherwise, which is incurred as a consequence directly or indirectly of the use and application of any of the contents of these episodes. Like I said, this is my opinion and I could be wrong.